Ms. Dolasan.
Sir, I was elected as a member of this House 1 year and 4 months ago. In the last 16 months, I have asked supplementary question and also participated in zero hour, special mention, etc. But today, sir, is a special day as I am making my maiden speech. I am happy I am making my maiden speech at this time, and I want to dedicate my maiden speech to the historic victory of Mamati Manush in Bengal exactly 2 months ago. Thank you, sir, for allowing me to deliver some points on the Indian Medical Council Amendment Bill and Dentists Amendment Bill 2016. Healthcare in India is in an abysmal state. The centre's share of total public expenditure on health has fallen over the last 2 years, and India spends less of its GDP on health than some of the world's poorest countries. Only 1.6% of the budget is allocated for the medical sector. The Working Group on Tertiary Care Institutions for the 12th five-year plan says nearly 1 million Indians die every year due to inadequate healthcare facilities. 700 million people have no access to specialist care, and 80% of specialists are working in urban areas. The Indian Medical Association estimates that 45% of the Indian medical practitioners, that is 17 lakh doctors, are unqualified and lack in formal training. Another key reason for poor health of Indians is the high proportion of out-of-pocket expenditure on health because of low insurance coverage and weak public health systems, which forces even poor people to visit private medical practitioners and drives up average health costs. High healthcare costs often lead people to delay treatment, aggravating health problems. Now, entering introduction to the bills. The Indian Medical Council Amendment Bill 2016 and the Dentists Amendment Bill 2016 provides a constitutional status to the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test, NEET examination. Honorable Minister Mr. J.P. Nadda said, there are three main objectives behind the move: end of multiplicity of examinations, have fair and transparent examinations, and adopt non-exploitative process. Now, I would like to point out some problems with the implementation of the same. Firstly, healthcare infrastructure. The basic medical infrastructure is woefully unequipped in our country to support the population. As per the World Health Organization ratio between patient and doctor, India is lagging far behind developed countries. This needs to be addressed first and foremost before looking at other areas of reform. Secondly, state consultation. All states do not conduct their 10+2 examinations at the same time. So the examination will have to be held at such a time when 10+2 examinations are over all across the country, and the students can get about 2 to 3 months to prepare. Cooperative federalism demands extensive interaction between center and states so that all issues can be discussed at length. Regional language. Only 80% of the students in this country are getting the opportunity of studying in English, and the rest are studying in their mother tongue or in their regional languages. The language for examinations should include all the languages in the 8th schedule of our Constitution. Syllabus disparity. Moreover, in many parts of the country, schools do not follow the same syllabus as CBSE schools. Thus, these should create a disparity among the students appearing for a national exam. So, if the standard is of the CBSE syllabus, then rural students and the students from poorer socioeconomic backgrounds will be unable to compete with urban elite students in common entrance examination. The syllabus should be at par throughout the country. Multiple exam centers. In West Bengal, we have multiple centers all over the state in every district, covering nearly all subdivisions, so that students can easily sit for the exam at centers closer to their homes. The center must consider every subdivision across the country having more than one center where they can go and appear for this examination. Federalism. The 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution places education on the concurrent list for a reason. It ensures that states can employ their resources judiciously. Thus, for cooperative federalism to be practiced, states must be considered as equal shareholders. Their recommendation must be heeded. The Medical Council of India, the apex body that is tasked with regulation and monitoring of medical education and practice in India, has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. The Standing Committee on Health and Family Welfare, chaired by Honorable Member Mr. Ram Gopal Yadav, submitted its report on the MCI on March 8, 2016. It observed various instances of irregularities and corruption. It further stated that it has become a club of influential medical practitioners who act without any fear of governance and regulations. Thus, the Medical Council of India cannot be given the charge to hold these examinations. A different body needs to be constituted which would ensure taking care of all the factors like regional languages, the number of examination centers, the time of holding the examination, domicile and uniform syllabus for the whole country. I would like to add, by presenting the current initiatives taken by the West Bengal government in terms of access to health care, which the centre must take as an example. Such policies must be implemented at a central level to ensure better health services to the people. I am proud to say that in West Bengal, when Honorable Mamata Banerjee has become the Chief Minister and the Health Minister as well, in the last 5 years, 109 fair price medicine shops have been opened, which give a discount ranging from 48% to 77.2%. Through them, over 2 crore people have been able to save INR 585 crores. Free indoor treatment is available to everyone at government hospitals. Simultaneously, all the patients admitted there are being provided with free medication. Moreover, prescriptions through generic names is a must in government hospitals. The institutional delivery rate has increased from 68% to 90% in the last 4 years, thus reducing the infant and maternal mortality rate, with IMR coming down from 31 to 27. The women are being brought from their homes in state ambulance after checkup, and after delivery, they are being sent home in those ambulances. West Bengal is the only state where at the sub-district level, besides installing CCUs or HDUs, patients are also treated free of cost. Over the last 4 years, 27,000 new beds have been added to the hospitals. 1355 medical seats have been increased amounting to 29,000 to 3,000 doctors and 3,100 nurses have been employed. Trying to sum up my points. 1. A common entrance examination might be helpful to avoid irregularity and corruption, but some important issues to be addressed before the implementation of that. 2. The health service and hospital is the responsibility of the states, so the opinion from the state government should be considered before any change is attempted on this issue. Otherwise, there might be injustice to the rural people. 3. The government health system in states like West Bengal is very effective and strong to cater the people of the rural and underprivileged effectively. The physicians should be well acquainted with the regional language and culture of the treating patients to deliver effectively. Hence, any ET should be conducted in all regional languages of Schedule 8 of the Constitution. 85% seats should be reserved for the students in their state of domicile. 4. After obtaining the degree from a particular state, utilizing the infrastructure, the graduate and postgraduate physicians should serve that state for at least 5 years. Otherwise, they should be instructed to deposit penalty to the government of that state before leaving to other states or countries. 5. There should be uniformity of syllabus across the country, at least in the science subjects in all boards. The students should be given opportunity to prepare in the same syllabus from level 11 before they are instructed to appear for the NEET, which is presently CBSE based only, as the syllabus is for 2 years of their study. 6. There should be regulations to limit the tuition fees by the private medical colleges. Otherwise, they might increase their charges to compensate the capitation fees. In addition, before I conclude, in view of the severe shortage of the doctors to meet the need, the government hospitals, including the district hospitals, with large infrastructures, should be considered to develop graduate and postgraduate courses similar to DNB courses, which has been very successful in West Bengal. Thus, the dependence on private medical colleges might be reduced. Private medical colleges who don't have such huge infrastructure like patients and clinical services usually invest capital for their profit only, even with the medical education. ESI hospitals, railway hospitals who have already huge infrastructures should be also considered for development of these education systems.
2 more minutes.
ESI hospitals, railway hospitals who have already huge infrastructures should be also considered for development of this education system and additional grants from the central government to be sanctioned to develop the infrastructure and system, and not merely from the contributions from the insured patients who are paying for their health only. Thank you, sir. Again,
Thank you very much.